Hey everybody, it's Vex here, and I know I talked about doing a cavern video at the end of the random encounter beach map video that I just posted. But if you're watching all of these and you're like, hey, I definitely want to see a cavern made, I'm going to do that tomorrow night. I do want to get this, I need another random river map made for my next expanded Tomb of Annihilation. So I'm going to go ahead and make one of those because they are kind of interesting how I have to what I have to do to get the right color for the water. And I did it once before. Hopefully, I can pull it off again. Uh, and I have had questions about how did you make that. So I start with this dark dirt texture that I made once before, and I'm just gonna do a 25 by 25. And then we're gonna do the water on top of that, but actually we're gonna stick a bunch of stuff in between that. And I do I believe it's the tropical ocean tropical on top of it. At least I hope that's what I did. I might do something different just to. Was it the ocean tropical? I think it was the ocean tropical. We'll find out. It doesn't look right. So we're going to take this down to about, oh, maybe 60%. And already it doesn't look right, but we're going to make it look right. The edges do look kind of right. Last time I did it where the river was angled this way, like it was flowing from one corner to the other. I think for this one I'm gonna do straight north south, and the sides will be kind of the dark areas. So the way I got like the the way I got the effect that I got, where the middle of the map looked kind of murky because so here's the thing in Tomb of Annihilation, it literally says in the book that the rivers in Chult are wide and slow moving and kind of muddy and you can't see very deep and all that kind of stuff. Basically you have to imagine like rivers, like the slow moving rivers in Africa or in the jungles of South America, especially like you think of like the Amazon, those big, huge, wide areas that are like half a mile wide, or even like the Mississippi in some places where it's it's very wide and it's deep, but you don't know how deep it is because you can't see past the maybe the first 6 inches of water because it's just so muddy. Not maybe muddy is not the right word. It's just not. It's kind of hard to see through. So what we're gonna do is on top of the dark dirt, but underneath the ocean. We're gonna draw a bunch of. We're gonna basically draw an area, and then we're gonna kind of do some lines on the other sides of those. You'll see what I mean, but we're basically gonna paint all the way through here. It doesn't have to be super regular. Um, that's about how we want to do it. I am gonna paint on top of this so that we don't get the same exact pattern. For some reason, with some of these, you get these weird. I just want to make sure this is broken up underneath there. We're gonna go ahead and group those together, and then on the sides of them, we're gonna do uh, another strip each. Oh, my mouse is stuck. Undo. If you saw my last video, you saw that happened there too. So it's maybe time to get a new mouse again. I've for some reason I'm hard on mice, but I usually buy fairly cheap ones. Oh my gosh! Every time I've bought expensive mice, the same things happen. Like I'm just too hard on mice, so it's easier to just buy cheap mice. Okay, now we've got those two sides. Those should be both underneath this, I think. And so we're gonna make this slightly opaque. It's hard to tell where we want it. Probably about 65-ish. And then these two, which I'll group together, uh, a little bit lower, like probably just enough that you can barely see them. That's pretty good. Maybe 35, a little bit lower. And now it looks like there's an area that's even like murkier in the center, where like maybe that's where the water's moving fastest. Um, I am gonna mess around. I'm gonna turn this down maybe. Yeah, just a little bit, like right there, 50. I think that looks about right for the effect I'm going for. Hmm. Just taking a look at it now. I am gonna put like lily pads and stuff, like I did on the last map. Lily pads and reeds and things all along the sides here. And I probably will do three variants like I did before with one with a canoe, one with a barge, and then one that's blank. Um, in fact, I may actually do a couple more variants with like where I may put the canoe like either at one end or the other. I'm not sure. Instead of doing it in the center, but yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. So this is our ground or our background, whatever you want to call it. I'm just gonna call it river because that makes the most sense in my mind. But that is we're pretty much done there. The only thing we have to do now is add details on top of it. So I am going to go down to the. We're mostly going to be using this jungle podium uh, one because there's a bunch of lily pads and there's big lily pads. There's scattered lily pads. If you saw my last one, I went really thick. I don't know if I'm going to go that thick this time. There's also reeds, and there's some reeds earlier too. These kind of reeds. Sorry, had to sneeze there. Had to mute myself. Probably caught a little bit of it. Sorry. Uh, so let's see. Do I want an edge? I think I do want kind of a forest canopy edge. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Uh, and I'm not gonna go. Let me go. Allow half. In fact, I may just do get rid of stick to grid altogether and kind of go where I want to go. Uh, Flip horizontal. There we go. Like that. Just to give you like the impression that there's like thick trees on either side that are hanging out over the edge. Like the it gives the impression that the bank is somewhere over here off the edge of the map. That the river is very wide. I mean, we're talking if we're talking 25 squares, that is 125 feet wide. That's wide. Most of you are trying to figure out how much is that in meters, and I don't know because I'm an American and we don't deal with the metric system. Unless we're scientists. So now that we've got that, we do want to add. Uh, we want to add some lily pads and things like that. I'm not going to go overboard this time in this map, uh, although I did have quite a few compliments on that map, so I did something right. Let's start with the little lily pads first, and then we'll cover them up with the big lily pads. So I'm going to turn on random angle. I will show you, because I don't use it, I will show you the brush tool. Now, I turn the frequency way down, the scale is up, but watch what happens. It's like that's with the frequency all the way down. Now, if you turn on random angle, let me undo. It's still like, whoa, I'm painting with it. Like it's just way too thick. I don't know why. the free with the frequency turns all the way down, why it still does that. If you turn the frequency up, it actually goes less. Doesn't make any sense, right? Logically. So that's what you want to do is you want to turn the frequency way down if you're going to do it. So I don't usually do this, but I'm going to go ahead and use it because I know people have asked about using the brush tool just to give it some random. Oh, and I'll show you how you can clean up if there's ones that you don't like. And I'm not going to worry about going on top of the. So once you've got, I think you can. Oh no, you that. Yeah, I was wrong. You can't select individual ones. So if it goes somewhere you don't like, you can see it. It's because it does a brush. You have to delete the whole thing. And I'm undoing. There we go. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna use the brush tool again. I'm gonna turn the frequency down or up a little bit, which means it's less frequent. And then I'm gonna be a little more careful about where I drag my mouse. Again, we're gonna make sure these get stuck underneath the forest edge. Right now they're on top of it, so I'm not worried about going on top of these forest edge areas. Lots of lily pads. We'll do the same thing with this one. Okay. Uh, Now the question is do I want to do it with any of the other stuff? I might do it with some reeds. I guess I could do it with these, but if I'm doing it with these, I'm going to turn the frequency all the way up to the max, and I'm just going to let it randomly go like that. Not going to worry too much about where they are or anything like that, because then I can just go and actually place some where I want them. If I was going to do reeds, I probably should have already done that, because these should be on top of the reeds. But we can always come back. I think I'm just going to skip these ones. I might do some big lily pads, though, down over here, because they look cool. Not a whole lot of them, but maybe 2 or 3 of each variety on each side. Now these ones are even bigger. They're like giant lily pads. They do look cool, but I think they're like too giant, so I like to take them down to about 65, and I gotta lock the scale. There's 1, 2, 3, and then one of these medium-sized ones. This one will stick out. Okay, if we're gonna do reeds, I don't want random angle because I want them to actually stick up in the right direction. I'm gonna go ahead and go back up to 100% scale. Let me zoom in so I've got the right. I think 0. Yeah. Okay. And then we're gonna have to whatever we do, whatever we paint. And I am gonna do the object tool. I don't want random angle. And I'm going to. I'll put the frequency at like 6. And I'm gonna go pretty much everywhere. All over the place. Like there's reeds sticking up all over. But again, these are I'm gonna, whatever I paint with this brush reed tool, I'm gonna move down underneath all of these lilies and stuff so it'll only stick out in some places. And I'm gonna go back over. I do want these. If we're gonna have lots of reeds, we're gonna go for it. If you've ever seen reeds, they don't come in thin variety, and then I'm gonna especially pay attention to the where they're thickest is nearest the shoreline. So I'm gonna get really going over here. I can't seem to get one right there. We'll do the same thing on this side. Paint, 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 paint. As it just goes along. Does its thing. I will say this for the brush tool. It 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 allows you to only have a few things. Like it that was three. But now we got to stick those. I'm going to go bottom. That's way too far to the bottom, but they need to be here underneath the lily pads. And now if we zoom in, all of the lily pads are underneath the reeds. But I did want to show you what the reeds look like. And actually all of this stuff needs to be underneath the edge. I'm still not super happy with the way the reeds look. They're okay. And I may have just used the wrong reed. I could have used the other one. And I can easily show you what this reed will look like instead. All we have to do is edit, switch it for that reed. Okay. Edit, switch it to this reed. Okay. Edit, switch to that reed. Okay. I do actually like those reeds. They look better to me. I don't know. But again, I still think that's, I don't know. It's maybe too busy. Like it's one thing with the lily pads, but with the reeds. And then again, it may just be these particular reeds where I let it get super thick over here. Oh, that was the wrong one. No, that was the wrong one. Oh well, I've deleted them all. That's what I wanted anyway, right? Was to get rid of the reeds. I didn't really like them. But that is something you can do is using the brush tool for something organic like reeds. Instead of adding a whole bunch of reeds, I think I'm just going to go through and add some right along the shore over here. And I'll make sure I'm just, hopefully it places them correctly. I probably, before I place those object foliage, yeah, that's the right one. Before I do that, I'm going to group all this stuff. Group, so I know they're all lily pads. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to do some reeds just along the shoreline. And as long as I know they're all object foliage 2 is their name, I can find them and make sure they get put in the right place. Same thing on this side. I'm just clicking a bunch of times. And as you can see, this map is starting to shape up like a starting to look like a river, as I described in the beginning. And I think that's right. They should all be underneath. Yes. Okay, I'm going to group these. I'm going to name them reeds. This was our lily pads. This is our forest edge. I thought I already renamed that, but it may have gotten undone with one of our undos. Okay, last time I used this foliage in my other one. I'm not going to use that this time, but I am still going to add some flowers to the middle of some of the lily pads because I think it looks interesting. When you do that, these flowers are huge. You got to turn down the scale. And it may just be when I added them, I did that. I should have random angle on too, just to be safe. Let's go over here. There's some cool, like lotus flower type flowers. Unless you're gonna have lots of flowers, it's best to really mix it up with the flowers. So you only have like one even that looks like any of the others. And once again, gonna stick all the flowers in one thing. And so now, looking at our river, we could do some sort of underwater um, addition. And there are actually like submerged lilies that you can use. If you're gonna use those, I would suggest going kind of big and make sure they're underneath like all of this stuff. Like they should be just on top of the river. I can show you what that would look like. Let me do, oh, quite a few. It does add some interesting, they almost look like lily pad shadows at the bottom of the water. So once I have them all grouped, move them down here, and now I'll zoom in. And actually, what I would probably do is change if I'm gonna use these, I'm gonna change the opacity so that they're not quite as visible. Let's look at that. There we go. So they're there. It's just they don't stand out as much. They look like shadows under the water. And I do kind of like the way that looks. I'll probably do the same thing on the other side. So let me go ahead and I'm going to put the opacity back up to 100. Did it do that? Yeah, it did. Okay. Because I'm going to add more on this side, and I want to be able to just do them all at once. Okay. Come on. I want them all underneath, yep, everything. And I'm going to group them. Submerged lilies. And then let's go down to, I'm actually going to go down even lower so that they're barely there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. There's some shapes down there. You're not really sure what they are. Okay. You can add fish if you want, like fish shadows or um, there's some other submerged animals in here. I can't remember if they're in this one or if they're in the water. I think they're in the river and water one. River and something. River and water, yeah. And there's a croc or a gator. However, if you were gonna do a gator, I don't I would never use that particular asset in one of my maps. Because if you're gonna do a gator, wouldn't it be an NPC, like an actual NPC that could do some fighting? There's some sharks or a turtle. I don't think these mostly fit with like ocean stuff. But you could use these on a river if you really wanted to. Um, if it fit for some reason. There are some other lily pads here. Um, and a stone bridge, a wood bridge, etc. For this particular map though, I think we're gonna do just a canoe, maybe, or maybe a barge. I think the way I'm gonna do this one, because I didn't like the way the tokens worked so much with the last one. I am gonna do an empty version like this. So if you're watching and you're like, oh, he's not gonna do it, no, I'm gonna do an empty version. But in the version I do with where the maps or where the boats are already on the map, I think I'm gonna do like a canoe and uh a canoe and a raft, not a giant airship, not a balloon, but there are some canoe. Well, there's a rowboat in here that looks like a canoe if you size it right. Especially since the way that the canoes are described, the canoes are supposed to hold 6 people. So a really long rowboat like this is about the right size. I think I figured it out that on that last map that I did, that you have like one person sitting at the back, then like 4 people sitting in the center, and then one person sitting in the front. And you got to size the canoe just right for that. So, and you want it kind of so it'll be on the grid, to be honest, if you're gonna do this. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's like 10 people. It's still too big. Let's go down to about 50. Any smaller than this, and won't really be right. Right. So let's assume one person at the front, one person at the back, then 1, 2, 3, 4. That's technically like I don't want to go any smaller than that. That's believable that like that's a big enough canoe that 6 people could fit in, at least according to the adventure. And I do think I'm gonna stick it right about here, because at the other end I'm gonna do a couple of rafts. And I gotta remember where the raft is. I thought there was a raft or a barge in here. Is it under barge for B? No, no, I'm not finding my barge. It must be under river and water or one of the other. I know I have the asset. Just gotta find it. Um, we'll look in river and water. If it was here earlier and I didn't see it. I'm not seeing it still. Gonna look through one more time. I thought it was labeled barge, so if it was here, it would be here. Okay, so if it wasn't in water and roads, it's not in forest, underdark, watchtower. Could it be in the sewers? I really doubt it. No. Okay, so we gotta find where that is. Where would it be? And did I use something else? Something that's actually labeled as something else. Is it in the temporary asset? No, that's the giant snake thing. It's not in the Wonder Draft stuff, which I don't know why I still have that. I need to just delete those. I already added those to Wonder Draft, but I thought it might be fun to try and build stuff. It's not in the Underdark terrain. Okay, I think you're actually going to see me use the search tool. Barge. There it is, river barge. It's right there. I don't know where that is. I go back to no. I know it's somewhere in the 2 minute tabletop assets, and I mean, if you look at it, you can tell it is a 2 minute tabletop asset. It's turned way down. I'm gonna make it like 100% size because I think I'm gonna do like 2 barges up here, and these barges will be like enemy barges. Um, that's the idea. If they roll a random encounter on the river and they're land animals, land creatures, uh, then these barges will be like the barges that are coming at them. There we go. So here's what I think I'm going to do as far as versions. I'm definitely going to do an empty version. Wait, ungroup. Where I'm going to do an empty version where there's no boats. And I'll once again, if in case you didn't pick up chapter 2 for some reason, but you're looking at this and you're like, I definitely want chapter 3 for this map. I will include the barge and the the rowboat as tokens. Uh, but I'll do an empty version, and then I'm gonna do a version with just the rowboat in case, like, for a random encounter where it's a water creature that's attacking them, wouldn't necessarily have barges, and then I'll do one with the barges. So there'll be 3 different versions. Uh, I haven't decided if I'm gonna also do those with night. I'll see how those look. Um, well, maybe you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, let's just do it. Let's do night versions. But if we're gonna do night versions, then these barges and this boat, they gotta have like lanterns, which just looks cool. So we're gonna do that. That'll be the last thing we do before we're done. Well, technically, I still need to add a grid key square. So let me get rid of the search. Go to folders. We need the furniture. That's where I'm gonna find lights. But first, I need some sort of post. The lantern can't just be sitting there. And those might not, what I'm looking for might not be in furniture. There's my lanterns and stuff. I'll probably end up using, this is technically a candle, or I'll look in one of the other ones and see if I can find a better light. That is one thing I'm planning on doing is getting, oh, it is in here. This is what I was looking for. It's the little handrail post. There we go. Get back to like a straight angle. I am going to take the scale down so that it kind of matches the boat. And we'll stick it right on the front. And let's get our boats and barges and stuff all the way up on top. And then this handrail should be all the way on top. And we'll do one in the back too. No, we won't actually. I think it'll look cooler just with one light on this boat, on the player's boat. And then on the barges, I think I'll stick one at each corner on the front end. And they're sticking them down underneath, but that's okay. I'll move all these handrails up to the very top. I'm gonna ungroup the barges. Okay, that's the handrail for the rowboat, so I'm gonna move those down. And those are the barges. Okay. Now we're gonna go back to those lights. And actually, I'm gonna go look and see if there's any different lights. I'm pretty sure I pulled the lights specifically from the mansion and the, whoa, there we go, mansion and the castle furniture packs, which means those might be the only lights I have. But I'm gonna look in a couple of these. I don't want to use any lights from anything else. If I do a search for light, it searches through not only the 2-minute tabletop, but it'll search through all these other ones. And if I found a light I liked, I wouldn't be able to sell these map or sell it as part of a product because I don't have the rights to sell some of those other ones. There's a candle. It's got it's got quite a glow on it. I don't really want that big of a glow. Castle gatehouse. I don't think there's any lights in here. No, there's not. Keep, siege weapons, tower, walls, cave tunnels, cave, city streets, dungeon builder, dungeon jail. There might actually be something. I haven't really played around with the jail a whole lot. These are fairly new assets that he's made. I haven't. I did add them to Dungeon Painter Studio, but I haven't really used them a whole lot. I did use these a little bit, the straw, and I think I used a couple of the desks. Torch sconce. That kind of works for what I'm looking for, but it also doesn't. I don't know. We'll keep looking. It's always good to just look. Dungeon passages, dungeon rooms, dungeon trap tokens. I don't think there's any lights in the trap tokens, but or anything that could be repurposed into a light. Nah. Forest clearing, no. Forest guardian, no. Forest guardian is a thing he did. It's literally like a giant turtle. There's a normal sized turtle, and then there's a giant turtle. Like this tortoise shell is massive. Nothing in the galleon, nothing in Grassroads. Gray Banner Arena has some traps but no lights. Okay. Mansion furniture has lights, but I think that's where I got the lights from that are in the furniture pack. Yeah. Oh, it does have like the chandeliers and stuff too. I mean, I could just use these, and that would be probably fine. I think that's what I'm gonna do. No, we'll go back up to. I don't think there's anywhere. The shrine doesn't have any lights, I don't think. No. Trains, tavern, wonder draft, watchtower, no. So let's see, where was that we found those other lights? Was it? And now I've forgotten. I think I'll just go into the furniture and use the lights that I know. Look through all that and it was for nothing. Every once in a while you find something though. It's worth spending the time looking through all your assets and finding something you like. I think I'm gonna just go with this wall light that sticks out, and I'm gonna zoom. I'm zoomed all the way in. And I zoomed a little bit out. That is something I wish Dungeon Painter Studio did a little bit better. Is you could zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, I'm not on stuck to grid, but that's kind of how I want it to look. Just hidden underneath the posts and a little light sticking out. And that one's off. So now I gotta flip this one around for the one on the player's boat. And of course it went on top. Like that. Okay. So this is our rowboat. Or canoe. And this is our barges. Now for the daytime version, I'm not going to worry about turning off those little lights because they're just so small you might not even notice them. A really observant player might notice them, but you got the torches lit. You know that if the players ask about them, what you tell them is, "Oh yeah, you're just trying to keep away mosquitoes." There you go. So this map is done. We're ready to export it, and I'll show you what we do. So let's see. We're gonna start. Oh wait, no, we're not ready. I forgot one minor thing. Wait, what is this light? Oh, we missed a light with our barges. Ungroup. Move this light up here. And group. Okay, and now we're gonna add the grid key square, which I already kind of picked out a spot for it, I believe. The only spot it can really fit where it's out of the way is right here. Everywhere else, it's gonna like it'd have to stick out right here or right here. It'll cover up part of the water, and I don't want it to do that. I want it to just kind of be on top of the forest's edge area. So now we're ready to export. Fantasy Grounds. Got to make sure I select the right area. Don't need all that. Don't need that. There we go. That's our edge all the way around. 25 by 25. And we export. And I can go over here and at least get my 2minutetabletop.com ready to go because we're going to add that. It is rasterizing the map, whatever rasterizing is. I'm sure someone out there is like, oh, rasterizing, that's, I assume that's some sort of mathematical term that has to do with like plotted dots on a chart or something like that. That's what it sounds like to me, at least. I was a math geek in high school for like a minute, and then I wised up and realized that nobody needs that much math unless they want to do, computer programming or solve the world's problems. You know, be generally helpful to humanity. I don't want to do that. I want to make stuff for D&D. Okay, is this a random map? It is a random map. Okay, so it's going to go in this file. This is going to be jungle. I think it's jungle 06 river because I did the river as a jungle map. So, and I'm up to jungle 5. Yeah, this is jungle 06 river. And then we're going to do the exact same thing, only with a grid, because some of you out there like grids. I think you're crazy, crazy people. I don't need no grid on my map. That's why there's a grid key square. That, and I find it's harder in Fantasy Grounds to get the grid to line up with a grid than it is with the grid key. At least it is for me. I'm sure there's other people who are watching this that are probably like, no, 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 your grid key is silly. Everybody's got their own opinions. Nobody's wrong. It's okay to have opinions. It's okay. In fact, it makes the world a better place, I think, when people have differing opinions. Unless they're bad opinion. I mean, I'm just teasing. Oh, this is the most boring part of the video is when I'm exporting all my maps. I could probably edit this out, but I'm too lazy to do that. So you just have to suffer through it with me. Okay, so this one is river grid. And because we're not doing any kind of like weird like other variants, that's all we need. Oh wait, yeah, never mind. I laughed so hard. We do have another variant. In fact, we're doing two other variants. So, but I'm not gonna mess around with those. Let's just do this important one. I'm gonna do those on my own. So I don't want to sit here for 10 minutes doing exports. So let's get these opened up. These are in originals, and it's Jungle 06. We're just going to do these two different ones. There is going to be a variant with where everything's empty. There's going to be a variant with just this boat, not these boats. So if you're like, oh, but I want to see how he does those. Well, if you want to see how I do just a general dark map variant, you can see that in any one of the other videos. Oops, I want to get both of these because I like the label. I get rid of the background layer so I know which one is which. That's the river with the grid. Okay, so we are going to do, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 new layers, I think. This one is just going to be a darkness layer, and that's really for when I get the other ones going. I'm just going to unclick that. This will be darkness with canoe, and this one will be darkness with barges, and this is our 2-minute tabletop logo one, which I'll do right now. And move it over, grab a piece of it. There we go. That looks good. We can close that now. Okay, so we want. Ooh, how are we gonna do that? I think we're probably gonna do this. This will be interesting. I've never done this before. You guys haven't seen me do this, but when I want to do different lighting schemes, I'll select just the part of the map that I'm worried about. So, for instance, we'll grab. How far is the light on the front of that boat gonna go out? Maybe about yay far. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna grab that. We're on the darkness with canoe layer, and we're gonna dump black on it. And then I'm gonna do select inverse, which selects all that we don't have selected. I'm going to switch over here, and that's where I'm going to dump the rest of the black. So that does mean that we're limiting how far the two lights can come together, and we might have to do some fine tuning to get that right. So we're going to go back over to the darkness. Well, on both of these actually, I'm going to change the opacity to 50, and now just select this darkness. Create a layer mask. Oops. What just happened? Oh, it's because I have that selected. Okay. Create a layer mask. There we go. I'll do the same thing up here so I don't make the same mistake. Okay. Down here, gonna go ahead and grab my paintbrush. I am using the HP brush final again. Um, 200 pixels on the brush size. And I'm going to assume because of the way we have this arranged that the light is actually going to kind of split and not completely envelop the back of the boat. But because of this, I'm going to basically have like a little shadow here. But it's not gonna be the whole thing, and actually it'll be kind of hard to see, but it'll be there for me. And then we're gonna do the biggest circle for the light, everywhere the light goes for this. That's probably good. Out to there, and then make a big circle. It's all about just kind of eyeing it. Okay, and then we're gonna fill it in. Again, this is a brush that's very irregular. It's kind of a smoky brush. I have it set to 25% opacity, um, and I got this kind of size um, for a reason. And I'll reiterate. I've said this before when I'm doing light. A little bit of imperfection goes a long way. It looks a little better when it's not super perfect. It's not super, you know, you don't want it to look like laser beams because like candlelight or torchlight doesn't look like that. So now we're going to go on top of this and we're going to go out not quite as far, maybe to about here. And actually, if you want to start at the edge, you don't have to start at the center. You can start at the edge that you want and then go around if that might be easier for you. And then work your way in. I made that a little oblong. There we go. And you might even, to further emphasize that the light is sticking out on the front, you might go shorter on the light in the back, like I kind of have. Well, I have and I haven't. Like I'm trying to eye it from where the light is, not from where the back of the boat is. So there's actually like more light towards the front of the boat than there is towards the back of the boat, which is somewhat accurate. I'm not super happy with these hard lines. But that's because we made the center of the river um like on the grid kind of. But that's okay. I think it still looks okay. Okay, another circle inside here of brightness. Still just moving in. And then finally, like our last circle, I'm only going to go bouncing back and forth in front here. And I'm going to do this multiple times. And the idea is to make the impression that the light is sort of like it's almost like it's from a hooded lantern only, like or something. So it's not going. This bright light is only in the front. It's not in the back, as if that post that the light is on is casting kind of a shadow or giving it like blocking the brightest of the light. And I think that's pretty good. Yeah, that looks good. There's nothing to block the light, so it's just kind of, you want it to look kind of organic. And if you're sitting over here and you're going, oh, I don't like this particular edge, just use your tool and kind of click where you don't like. You don't want to click too many times though; it'll get too bright in a particular area. Okay, and then we're gonna go up and take care of these barges. Now these barges are gonna be, it's gonna be a brighter area, and it doesn't want to zoom in. There we go. It's going to be a brighter area, and there's going to be some overlapping light. But I'm probably going to try and just go out to about here, so I don't get, how do I say this? So I don't get, I don't have to worry about the light zones overlapping. So in fact, I'm going to start my light zone for all of this right in here. So it's almost, oh wow, see, that's the edge of our, I knew I was going to have to play with it. Yeah. Maybe I'll go back a little bit. So now that I know that that's there, there we go. I'll do something like that. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can do this all at once. Okay, that is our area. And now that I realize how big that area is, I'm going to go up to 400. No, 400. There we go. Use a much bigger brush just to get this done in less time. I'm going to turn the brush size down when I get down to the smaller circles. But for right now, I'm just going to go hit this in swaths. If for some reason your party is traveling at night on the rivers in Cholt, you're probably like watching this getting super excited. You're like, yes, I needed an encounter map for that when they're traveling at night on the river. Everybody else is like, my party's not crazy. They don't travel on the river at night. They go and make landfall and camp for the night. I know my guys are not crazy. They stop for the night. At least so far they have been. I say this now, and one of them is gonna watch this video and go, "Oh, we're so gonna travel at night until we get in a random encounter. This map's awesome." Uh, okay, now we're getting down to the last few circles. I don't want this big, huge brush. I'm gonna go back down to 200 where I started, and I'm also gonna zoom in and take a closer look. So I kind of do the same thing that I did over there. I'm just gonna make a circle here that's only in front. And the same thing over here. You may be noticing that the brush shape changes. In this particular brush, there's a bunch of different brushes. It's just the way this brush is set up. And then over here, I'm probably not going to add color to these lights because I don't know why. I'm looking at the, not even looking at the map right now. I'm actually looking over here at the navigator to kind of judge how it looks. Still. Looks pretty good. I'm going to swap down here though, and I am going to add just, oh, if I can. Maybe I can't. It doesn't seem to be doing. Oh, that's because I'm on this layer. I need to be on the mask. There we go. Okay, and then I'll switch back to this one and do the same thing. I want these lights to just barely be interacting, like wisps of fog almost. It looks okay. Uh, there is a harsh line in there somewhere in a couple of these. It's on this one. Seeing as I do more on one, I gotta do more on, yeah. I'm just like getting diminishing returns here. So in that case, I think what I'm gonna do is pull out the blur tool. Oh wow, that's way too tiny. Give me like, well, I don't want like 5,000, but 200 seems. Okay, and I'm on the wrong one. Yeah. I don't like how that worked out at all. Gonna undo. Let me see how it looks when I zoom way out. It's not that bad. I can live with it. It's not perfect. Now, if I was a true perfectionist, I would definitely get in there and I would, well, first of all, I wouldn't have done two separate layers. I would have, in fact, now that I think about it, I thought of a really easy way to do it, but I'm happy with the way it looks. But if you're wondering, what's the really easy way to do it? So you do one layer with both the barges and the canoe, and that mask, and then you copy that whole layer, and then for the layer where it's darkness without the barges, just the the canoe, you just paint white all over the area where the barge's light was. You just get rid of it. Or even do this one, then copy it, and you do but you have two different versions, one where the canoe is there and one where it's not. But for now, I, I'm happy with this. I don't want to redo it right now. So that's our two different versions, though. You now have a version where there's a grid, version where there isn't a grid, and then you have a version in the daytime and in the nighttime. And there will also be a version where it's empty and a version where there's no barges at all in both day and night. So, good to know. That only took us an hour. That's pretty good, actually. And the whole point is that by the end, you're looking at this and all you're seeing is a river. If you're looking at this and you're like, this still doesn't look like a river, I can't help you. To me, this looks like a jungle river at night with like boats that have lights on them. If I turn these off, it looks like a jungle river during the day. Um, so I can't help you if you're not seeing it, but I hope you are. And that's my video for the night. So now you know how I made the multicolored effect of the like the different water in my other map. Uh, Hope you enjoyed it.